Let's look at 2.2a, solving quadratic equations. We're going to do this algebraically. So we have a few different methods. So we are going to do number 1 and 2 today. So number 1 is by factoring. So one of the ways we can factor is by doing the GCF. The other one is to factor using the box. And then another one you may have learned in Algebra 2 is to factor by grouping. Okay, so let's start with factoring number 1. In order to factor, we first need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to move this over to the other side. So now we have 6x squared minus 3x equals 0. So now what I want to do is I want to factor out 6x squared and 3x. What I can factor out is 3x out of both of them, which would leave 2x minus 1. You can always double check by multiplying back in. So whenever I have it as two factors, I set those factors equal to 0 and solve. So I set them both equal and I'm solving. So x equals 1/2. So we have two solutions here. So remember, a solution is where the function crosses the x-axis. So this is a quadratic because of the squared. So it crosses at 0 and at half. So let's go to the next one. All right, we have 9x squared minus 6x and then equals -1. I'm going to do the same thing. I want to move everything on to one side, and I want to make sure that this x squared is positive, which it is right now. So it just means I need to move over the 1. So now I have 9x squared minus 6x plus 1 equals 0. So you've probably learned a few different methods. So I'm going to show you the method that I like to use, and you can use that method or you can use the method that you already know to factor this. So this is factoring trinomials. So the way that I do it is I look at it in standard form where we have a, b, and c. And what I want to do is I want to use this x. On the top of the x is a times c. So 9 times 1 is 9. On the bottom is b. b is -6. So what I'm looking for is what multiplies to get a product of 9 and adds to get a -6. So a sum of -6. So that would be a -3 and a -3. So those are my factors. So the way that I multiply it back in, so I'm going to rewrite this as 9x squared minus 3x minus 3x plus 1. So all I did was found out what the middle terms are. So we can factor this by grouping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out of this 3x squared minus 3. So it's a 3x. And it leaves a 3x minus 1 inside. And then the other one, I would have to factor out a -1 because it's first. So minus 1. And then that's going to change every sign. So 3x minus 1. So this is factor by grouping. So now I do this term and this term. So 3x minus 1. And then these terms are the exact same. So 3x minus 1 equals 0. So we're going to set this equal. So 3x minus 1 equals 0. And 3x minus 1 equals 0. Aren't they just the same thing? So we really only have to do this once. I'm going to solve this side. So x equals 1/3. Okay, so that is factor by grouping that we just did. Let's look at this next one. So same thing. We want to move that 6 over. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the x. So a times c, so negative 10, and then b, negative 3. So what gives us a product of negative 10 and adds to get negative 3? So we know that they're going to be different, and the bigger number is going to be negative, so it's negative 5 and 2. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So now I'm going to rewrite this as 2x squared minus 5x plus 2x minus 3. So then I can factor by grouping again. So the only thing I can pull out on this side is x. So that's 2x minus 5. Oh, this should be a negative 5. Sorry. And then this side would be, it looks like 1. So plus 1, and then that's 2x minus 5 again. So now we rewrite. So we have x plus 1, and then 2x minus 5. And we still have equals 0. So we set them equal to 0 to solve. So x equals negative 1. Then the other one, 2x equals 5, divide by 2. So x equals 5 over 2. Oh, and I got to box this one too. So we have those two solutions. All right, so let's keep on going through this. We have 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. So we are going to do the same thing, a, b, c. So this will be a times c, it's negative 6, and then we have a 5. So it multiplies to get negative 6, but adds to get 5. So that's going to be 6 times negative 1 is negative 6, and then 6 times negative 5. So we have 2x squared plus 6x minus 1x, and then we carry down the minus 3. So all I did was figure out what this is, equals 0. So now I want to factor. So I'm going to factor out the 2x squared and the 6x. That would be a 2x. So I get x plus 3. And then this group, so I already did that group. This group is going to be negative 1, and that changes everything. So that'd be just like that. And then we do 2x minus 1. And then this x plus 3, because they're the exact same. So I set them equal to 0. So 2x equals 1. Divide by 2. X equals 1/2. And then the other one is x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals negative 3. So there are two solutions. All right, let's keep on going. All right, A, B, and C. So A times C is negative 6, and we get a negative 1. So it multiplies to get negative 6 and adds to get negative 1. So that'd be a negative 3 and a positive 2. So we have 3x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 2. So we'll factor and factor. So this will be a 3x. Looks like it's just an x minus 1. And then this side we have a 2, the x minus 1 again. So we have 3x plus 2 times x minus 1. Set them equal to 0 and solve for x. And then x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1, and x equals negative 2/3. Okay, last one with factoring. All right, let's look at this one. A, B, and C. So 8 times 4 is 32. What multiplies to get 32 and adds to get negative 33. So that'd be a negative 32 and a negative 1. So 8x squared minus 32x minus 1x plus 4. All right, so let's factor by grouping. So it'll be an 8 and an x. So that's x minus 4. And then this group, because negatives first, it's going to be a negative. The only thing they have in common is 1. So then we change the sign on the second one. So these two guys is the first binomial. X minus 4 is the second binomial. Set them equal. And solve. And then x minus 4 equals 0, so x equals 4. And this one's x equals 1/8. Okay, let's do the solve by extracting square roots. All right, so let's look at this first one. So we again want to get x by itself, so we're solving. So divide by 4, and we get x squared equals 3. We take the square root, so x equals plus minus square root of 3. Don't forget the plus minus. So it has two solutions actually, one at square root of 3 and one at negative square root of 3. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, we have a squared here, so we can automatically get rid of it by doing square root. Those cancel each other. We get x minus 3 equals square root of 7. But remember, we got plus minus. Okay, so then we got to add 3 to both sides. So x equals 3 plus minus square root of 7. Okay, that one wasn't too bad. Okay, next one. Okay, we're going to get rid of the squared. So we need to take the square root on both sides. Square and square root cancel. 2x minus 1 equals plus minus. Well, what is square root of 9? It's 3. What's square root of negative? I. So this is 3i. Okay, we still got to solve this out. So I'm going to do plus 1, plus 1. So we have 2x equals, remember you want your real part first and then your imaginary part, and then divide by 2. So that's what we get. We get a fraction with real and imaginary parts. There's nothing we can do to simplify that. Okay, let's do one more together. Okay. We need to do squared and square root. Inverses of each other. So we have 3x minus 2 equals plus minus. Let's go ahead and get rid of this negative. So we're going to take out I and keep square root of 6. All right, so now we can solve. So let's do plus 2. 3x equals 2 plus minus I square root of 6. Divide by 3, all the way through. Okay, you might be tempted to simplify 2, 3, and 6, but you cannot do that. The only thing you could simplify is you could simplify these terms, but you cannot simplify a square root like that. So we're going to keep them all separated and leave our solution as is. There's nothing to simplify. All right, we'll finish the in-class problems together.